Dead and Gone, but Not Forgotten. Part 1. The Tragic 27 Club. So what is it about the age of 27? And why have so many of rock's most influential and innovative and troubled musicians left this world at the same exact age? Is it a coincidence? A curse? Or just a high price of living too fast and burning too bright? Welcome back to Headbangers History. This is where we dive into the rock and metal's most legendary and heartbreaking stories. In part 1 of our Gone Too Soon series, we explore the infamous 27 Club, the musicians who changed history and left a void that could never be filled. Welcome to Headbangers History, where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. Let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal. Jimi Hendrix died in 1970, the guitar god who redefined music, arguably the greatest guitarist of all time. Jimi Hendrix didn't just play guitar, he reinvented what the instrument could actually do. From his groundbreaking fuzz-drenched tone to his explosive live performances, Hendrix was decades ahead of his time. Some of his biggest impact was his experimental use of feedback. Distortion, the wah-wah pedals, influenced hard rock and heavy metal. His most famous tracks, of course, are Purple Haze, Voodoo Child, Slight Return, and All Along the Watchtower. His cause of death? Drug-related asphyxiation in London in 1970. Had he lived, could Hendrix have played alongside Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, or Deep Purple? Let's just imagine the ultimate supergroup. Second person is Janis Joplin, died in 1970. She was the soulful queen of rock. Janis wasn't just a singer. She was a force of nature. With her gritty, emotional voice and untamed stage presence, she seemed to pave the way for female rock and metal vocalists. It was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby. Her biggest impact, where she broke the mold, proving that women could be raw, they could be aggressive, and lead rock bands. Some of her most famous tracks are Pieces of My Heart, Cry Baby, Me and Bobby McGee. Her cause of death was a heroin overdose in Los Angeles in 1970. But without Janis, would we have gotten Ann Wilson of Heart, Lita Ford, or even Hailstorm's Lizzie Hale? It's hard to tell. Her influence still echoes in today's rock scene. Jim Morrison died in 1971. He's the dark poet of rock, the Lizard King.
Scattered on dawn's highway bleeding, ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind.
The shaman of psychedelia, and one of rock's most enigmatic frontmen. Jim Morrison turned music into poetry, into rebellion. It was pure raw emotion. His biggest impact was his dark poetic lyrics and brooding stage presence. People are strange when you're a stranger, faces look ugly, which inspired countless gothic and metal acts. Some of his famous tracks are Riders on the Storm, Light My Fire, Break On Through, numerous others. His cause of death was heart failure, rumored to be an overdose, in Paris in 1971. Without Morrison's influence, would we have seen the rise of an Alice Cooper or the Misfits, or even black metal's eerie atmospheres? And then there's Kurt Cobain. He died in 1994, and he was a grunge icon who changed rock forever. Few musicians reshaped rock overnight like Kurt Cobain. His band Nirvana took the underground grunge scene and just made it into a global phenomenon. Biggest impact? He killed the glam metal era and brought rock back into a raw emotion with simplicity and rebellion. Some of his famous tracks were Smells Like Teen Spirit, Come As You Are, Lithium, many others. His cause of death was a gunshot wound.
Loader with an MTV News special report. The body of Nirvana leader Kurt Cobain was found in a house in Seattle on Friday morning, dead of an apparently self-inflicted shotgun blast to the head. Police found what is said to be a suicide note at the scene, but have not yet divulged its contents. Cobain, who was 27, had reportedly been missing for several days. The Los Angeles Times reported on Wednesday that Nirvana was breaking up and that Cobain was planning to undergo drug rehabilitation. A source close to the band told MTV News earlier this week that while that story
officially
sounded bad,
ruled a suicide in Seattle
was,
in
quote,
1994.
really
Had he lived, would Nirvana have evolved into a heavier and maybe a more experimental band? Kurt could have collaborated with metal acts like Metallica or Soundgarden? We'll never know. And then there's one I'm adding in, and it's Amy Winehouse. She died in 2011, and it's a modern tragedy. While not a metal artist, Amy Winehouse's raw talent and emotional depth transcended her genres. Her tragic downfall mirrored those of Hendrix, Joplin, Morrison, all before her. Her biggest impact, reviving old school soul and blues into a modern era, which influenced countless rock vocalists. Some of her famous tracks were Back to Black, Rehab, You Know I'm No Good. All worthy songs to go listen to. Her cause of death was alcohol poisoning in London in 2011.
We're going to turn now to a major loss in the music world tonight. The gifted singer Amy Winehouse found dead in her London home. She was just 27. And so many people blogging and tweeting throughout the day today about an almost eerie coincidence. So many young music stars lost, and so many lost when they too were 27.
Had Amy survived, would she have become a rock artist? She was on the verge of a heavier blues-infused rock transition, in my opinion. So the big question here is this coincidence or is it a curse? So many of rock's most influential figures died at 27. So I need to know, was it fate, the cost of fame, substance abuse, and mental health struggles left unchecked? What do you think? Is the 27 Club real or just tragically a coincidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. So next up in part 2 of the series is Metal's Fallen Titans, the ones who redefined heavy. We've covered the 27 Club, but what about the metal legends who left us way too soon? In part 2, we'll dive into the stories of Bon Scott, Randy Rhoads, Cliff Burton, Dimebag Darrell, and Paul Gray. The ones who made metal heavier, only to be taken way too soon. So who do you think was the most influential member of the 27 Club? Put it in the comments. Let's talk. Let's chatter. Dead and gone, but not forgotten. Part 2, Metal's Fallen Titans. These are the ones who redefined heavy. So some musicians don't just play metal. They absolutely define it. They push boundaries, create new sounds, and leave behind a legacy of heaviness that echoes through time. But sometimes, these people are taken from us far too soon. So welcome back to Headbangers History. This is where we honor the legends who built metal with their blood, with their sweat and riffs. In part 2 of our Gone Too Soon series, we're diving into 5 metal titans who changed the game, only to be ripped away from us before their time. From thrash to classic metal, groove to death metal, These were the artists who redefined heaviness. So horns up for the people. Welcome to Headbangers History, where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. Let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal. Number 1, Bon Scott. He died in 1980, the hard rock rebel who almost didn't make it before Brian Johnson took AC/DC to global superstardom. Bon Scott was the heart and soul. He had raw energy that made this band. His voice was a mix of swagger, grit, and reckless abandon, and his lyrics were pure rock and roll attitude. His biggest impact was he brought bluesy, hard-hitting vocals that made AC/DC's early albums absolutely legendary. Some of his famous tracks were Highway to Hell, Let There Be Rock, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Big Balls. His cause of death was alcohol poisoning in London in 1980. Would Back in Black have been even bigger if Bon had survived? How different would AC/DC have sounded? Number 2 is Randy Rhoads, great guitarist, died in 1982. The guitar prodigy who revolutionized metal at just 25 years old, Randy Rhoads was already being hailed as a guitar god. His neoclassical shredding and intricate solos on Ozzy Osbourne's first 2 solo albums changed metal guitar forever. His biggest impact was merging classical influences with metal, and it set the blueprint for shredders like Yngwie Malmsteen and Zakk Wylde, who followed him eventually. Some of his famous tracks were Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, Diary of a Madman, among many others. His cause of death was tragically a plane crash in Florida in 1982.
Private plane buzzed the house in Leesburg, Florida, where the group was staying. On the third pass, the pilot clipped their tour bus, parked outside, and plowed into the house, killing the group's lead guitarist, Randall Rhoads, and the makeup artist, Rachel Youngblood. He also killed himself. Ozzy Osbourne was sitting in the bus at the time, but somehow survived unhurt. All the other members of the group also escaped, even though petrol from the wrecked plane started a fierce fire and gutted the house.
So if Rhoads had lived, would Ozzy's 80s albums have been even greater? Could he have joined a new metal supergroup? Who knows? These are the questions I'm asking.
A for effort, son.
Number 3, one that hit me hard, was Cliff Burton, who died in 1986. The bass wizard who changed Metallica forever. Before Metallica became the biggest metal band in the world, they had Cliff as a bassist, who played like a lead guitarist. He had a unique style of playing, songwriting. His classical influences made Metallica's early albums something special. His biggest impact was proving that bass wasn't just background noise. It could actually drive the music. Some of his famous tracks are Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth, a great bass solo, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Orion, so many of them. His cause of death was a bus accident in Sweden in 1986.
WRTN Inertia, Oklahoma Midnight Metal, of course, tonight dedicating the entire show to Cliff Burton of Metallica, who died early this Saturday morning in a tragic auto accident. The tour bus of Metallica, of course, going off the road during their tour in Sweden, and just...
Would Metallica sound have changed so drastically in the 90s if Cliff had lived? Would we have ever gotten the Black Album? You'd never know.
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question.
And then there's Dimebag Darrell. He died in 2004. This groove metal king was murdered on stage. Few guitarists defined an entire genre the way Dimebag Darrell did for the groove metal. His riffs were crushing, his solos were wild, and his personality was as big as his sound. He absolutely took Pantera to legendary status and was set to dominate metal once again until this tragedy struck. His biggest impact was inventing a groove metal and influencing bands like Lamb of God, Machine Head, Gojira. One of my new favorites. Some of his famous tracks were Walk, Cowboys from Hell, Floods. His cause of death was murdered on stage during a Damage Plan show in 2004.
See shooter Nathan Gale in a black jacket and baseball cap charging on a stage and pulling out a gun. He was headed straight for Dimebag Darrell, the band's lead guitarist. The crowd, shocked, unbelievably didn't move. Someone on stage.
So if Dimebag had lived, could Pantera have reunited? Would we have seen more legendary albums from him and Vinnie Paul? I hope. I want to believe we would. And then there's Paul Gray, who died in 2010. He was the silent leader of Slipknot, while Corey Taylor and Joey Jordison got most of the spotlight. Paul Gray was the backbone of Slipknot. As their bassist and primary songwriter, he helped craft their most brutal and emotional tracks. His biggest impact was creating Slipknot's signature heavy, chaotic, and yet still melodic sound. Some of the famous tracks are Duality, Psychosocial, Before I Forget. His cause of death? Accidental overdose in Iowa in 2010.
Developing story right now. Just within the last few hours, we've confirmed that the bassist for the band Slipknot has died.
He was found dead in an Urbandale motel room. News Channel 8's Amanda Lewis has the details. Amanda.
Well, they've been circulating rumors all day about 38-year-old Paul Gray, and now we're learning that those rumors are true. Urbandale police say employees of the Town Place Suites at 8800 North Park Drive found Gray in a hotel room this morning. In this video, you can see them removing Gray's things from the hotel. Police say they found no evidence of foul play.
Could Slipknot have maintained their intensity and raw emotion if Paul had stayed? And how much of their later sound did they lose without him? So in closing, who left the biggest void in metal? Every one of these musicians changed the game. Some shaped the sound of entire subgenres. Some were just getting started. And some left us wondering what could have been. So which fallen titan do you think had the biggest impact on metal? Let's chat in the comments. Type it below. And next up in our series, the voices that will never be replaced. We've talked about the shredders and the songwriters. But what about the vocalists? In part 3, we're going to dive into the irreplaceable frontmen, the voices that left us far too soon. From Freddie Mercury, Wayne Staley, Ronnie James Dio, to Chester Bennington. So who do you think was the greatest metal voice we lost too soon? Dead and gone, but not forgotten. Little mini-series. Part 3, the voices that will never be replaced. The irreplaceable ones. Red and a drummer can blast, but a vocalist is the soul of a band. Some voices are so powerful and unique and irreplaceable that when they're gone, it feels like a piece of metal history disappears with them. Welcome back to Headbangers History. This is where we honor the fallen legends of rock and metal. In part 3 of our Gone Too Soon series, we're going to dive into the voices that define generations. The ones we lost but will never forget. Welcome to Headbangers History, where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. Let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal. So number 1 topping this list is Freddie Mercury, who died in 1991. The greatest frontman ever? Possibly. Was Freddie Mercury a metal singer? No, but did he influence every rock and metal vocalist after him? Absolutely. His range, his operatic power, and his ability to command a stage were completely unmatched.
Every day,
The biggest impact was his voice set the standard for a dynamic theatrical rock with metal vocals, in my opinion. Some of his famous tracks, Bohemian Rhapsody, We Are the Champions, Somebody to Love, and numerous others.
we are the champions, my friend.
With his cause of death listed as complications from AIDS in London, 1991.
Freddie Mercury, the flamboyant frontman of the veteran British band Queen, died Sunday in his West London mansion. He died peacefully at age 45 of bronchopneumonia brought on by AIDS. Mercury had lived as a recluse the last 2 years and made no public appearances earlier this year to promote Queen's last album, Innuendo. His death came just 1 day after he issued a statement to the press confirming that he had AIDS, ending many months.
Would he have collaborated with metal bands if he had lived? Let's just imagine Freddie singing with Iron Maiden or Judas Priest. I could see it. Number 2 is Lane Staley, the great Lane Staley. Who died in 2002. He was the voice of pain and darkness. Lane Staley's haunting, raw, and sorrow-filled voice gave Alice in Chains its signature sound. He was a singer who made you feel every lyric, and his duality of harmonies and gut-wrenching screams definitely influenced generations of rock and metal bands. His biggest impact was helping define the dark, sludgy side of grunge that blended into the metal scene. Some of the famous tracks are Man in the Box, Rooster, Nutshell. Cause of death was a drug overdose in Seattle in 2002.
Hey, I'm Ian Robinson with MTV News. The rock world lost one of its more honest voices this weekend when Alice in Chains frontman Lane Staley was found dead in his Seattle home on Friday. He was 34. Seattle police say they responded to a call from one of Staley's relatives asking them to check on his well-being since he hadn't been seen in 2 weeks. Police then discovered a body, later identified as Staley, that had been deceased for at least a few days, surrounded by intravenous drug paraphernalia. Exact time and cause of death are still being...
But what if Lane had gone heavier? Would Alice in Chains have become a full-blown metal band? We'll never know. Number 3, the late, great Ronnie James Dio. Who died in 2010. He's the godfather of metal vocals. If there's one voice that metalheads respect, it's Ronnie James Dio. His operatic power, mythical lyrics, and larger-than-life presence, it made him one of the most beloved figures in metal history. His biggest impact was creating the metal horns gesture that I use and you use, and it set the standard for powerful metal vocals. Some of the famous tracks of Holy Diver, Rainbow in the Dark, Heaven and Hell. Many others. His cause of death was cancer in Houston, 2010.
Ronnie James Dio, who was raised in Cortland, New York, will have a public memorial service on Sunday, May 30th at 2 p.m. at the Hall of Liberty, located at Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills, 6300 Forest Lawn Drive in L.A. This will be a celebration of the life and music of Ronnie James.
But would Dio have been making albums in his 80s? Given his energy, I think he would have. And then the sad story of Chris Cornell. Died in 2017. He was the golden voice. Chris Cornell wasn't just a singer, he was a vocal god. His range from soulful lows to raw, primal screams. It made him one of the most versatile rock singers ever. His biggest impact was influencing both grunge and heavy metal vocalists.
It's a grunge thing. Grunge.
From Corey Taylor to Miles Kennedy. Some of the famous tracks, Black Hole Sun, Like a Stone, Cochise. His cause of death was suicide in Detroit in 2017.
This morning, the music world is remembering grunge rock pioneer. Chris' video is believed to be from his final show last night in Detroit, just hours before his death. Anthony Mason is here with a look at how Cornell changed rock music.
But what if Soundgarden had gone heavier in their later years? Would we have seen Cornell front a metal band? And then there's Chester Bennington. He died in 2017. He was a modern metal icon. Chester Bennington was one of the most versatile metal vocalists of the 2000s. His ability to switch between emotional melodies and then gut-wrenching screams definitely made him a defining voice of a generation. His biggest impact was blending nu metal aggression with emotional vulnerability. It influenced a wave of post-metalcore bands. Some of the famous tracks of In the End, Numb, Crawling. His cause of death was suicide in California in 2017.
Amy, good morning. Chester Bennington was just 41, the lead vocalist for Linkin Park for nearly 2 decades, an extraordinary singer-songwriter, and fans are now pointing to his own lyrics for clues about that personal struggle. They're one of the most popular bands in the world.
But would Chester have fronted a full-on metal band in the future? He definitely had the range and the ability to take on any of the genres, in my opinion.
Who cares if one more light goes out?
So in closing, who do you think had the most unforgettable voice? It's different for all of us, but each of these vocalists defined an era, a sound, a feeling. Their voices were all unique, powerful, irreplaceable in my opinion, and even though they're gone, their music still lives on. Which fallen vocalist do you think had the most legendary voice? Let's debate it in the comments below. And next up, we got the underground and the overlooked legends. The people I believe deserve more recognition. We've covered the big names, but what about the ones who never got their due respect? In part 4, we'll shine a light on the underrated legends like Chuck Schuldiner, Pete Steele, Alexi Leo, and the ones whose impact was massive but whose names don't always get the credit that they deserve. Who do you think is the most underrated fallen metal legend? Okay, everybody, welcome back to Headbangers History. This is my series Dead and Gone, Not Forgotten. Here's part 4, The Underground and Overlooked. So not every metal legend gets the recognition that they deserve. Some artists shaped entire subgenres, influenced countless bands, and some redefined heaviness, yet they still remain in the shadows. Their impact is undeniable, but their names don't always make the headlines. Welcome back to Headbangers History. This is where we're going to honor the fallen legends of metal. In part 4 of our Gone Too Soon series, we're going to shine a light on the underground icons and the overlooked pioneers, who in my opinion changed the game but never got their full credit. Welcome to Headbangers History, where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal. So topping my list is Chuck Schuldiner. He died in 2001, but this guy was the godfather of death metal. Before death, there was really no death metal. I'm sure there was other bands, but Chuck Schuldiner didn't just play extreme metal, he invented it. His riffs, his songwriting, his technical approach, it pushed metal into these brutal new territories. It inspired generations of extreme musicians. His biggest impact was pioneering death metal, introducing progressive elements into this extreme music. Some of his more famous tracks are Crystal Mountain, Pull the Plug, The Philosopher. He has so many, go listen.
All the breath in the world can help you now.
He died of brain cancer in 2001, but I want to know, would Chuck have continued to evolve death into even more technical and
What's wrong with you?
melodic realms had he lived?
You had me worried for a minute.
Let's try that all again.
Not too smart, huh?
He died of brain cancer in 2001, but I need to know, would Chuck have continued to evolve death into even more technical and melodic realms if he had lived?
My boy's wicked smart.
And then there's the great Peter Steele, someone I listened to early on in the band Carnivore. He died in 2010. He was a gothic metal giant, towering at 6'8" with a deep, haunting voice. Peter Steele was the mastermind behind Typo Negative. His music blended goth, doom, and romance, creating something entirely unique in the metal world. His biggest impact was bringing gothic and doom metal into the mainstream while still managing to keep it dark and heavy. Some of his famous tracks, Black Number 1, Love You to Death, and Christian Woman. His cause of death was heart failure in 2010. But had Peter lived, would Typo Negative have continued their evolution into heavier, more experimental sounds? And then there's Mike Scotia. He died in 2012. He was a thrash and industrial innovator. Mike was a thrash metal beast with rigor mortis, before bringing his insane speed and precision to Ministry. He helped define the industrial metal sound. His biggest impact was fusing thrash metal with this industrial metal, making it heavier and more aggressive. Some of his famous tracks are Just One Fix, Thieves, Hallowed Ground. His cause of death was a heart attack on stage in 2012. But would industrial metal have become even heavier and more guitar-driven if Scotia had lived? And there's Alexi Laiho. He died in 2020. He was a shred king of modern metal. Alexi was one of the greatest metal guitarists of the 21st century. He was with Children of Bodom.
Don't time! Run in before you dive!
He mixed melodic death metal, neo-classical shredding, and thrash aggression into something entirely new. His biggest impact was pushing melodic death metal into a virtuosic, hyper-technical era. Some of his famous tracks were Every Time I Die, Needled, 24/7, Downfall. Cause of death was health complications due to years of alcohol abuse in 2020.
Breaking news just in the rock feed. We have some difficult news to share with you this morning. Some unbelievable news, quite frankly, involving Alexi Laiho of Children of Bodom, the frontman for the group, one of the most prolific guitar players, and I don't use that term lightly, literally one of the most renowned guitarists of our lifetime, for sure. There's a statement that has come out from their publicist, according to Pitchfork, and we have a statement as well from the record label Napalm Records too. The statement from Napalm Records reads, "It is with heavy hearts and great sadness that we have to announce the passing of Alexi."
But had he lived, could he have become the next guitar icon? Like a Randy Rhoads or a Dimebag Darrell? I'll let you make those comments and decide. And then there's Riley Gale. Died in 2020. This was the future of thrash. Gone way too soon, Riley Gale was set to lead this thrash revival with Power Trip. His blend of punk aggression, social consciousness, classic thrash energy made him one of the most promising frontmen in modern metal. His biggest impact was helping bring thrash metal back to relevance in the 2010s. Some of the famous tracks are Executioner's Tax, Swing the Axe, Hornet's Nest, and Firing Squad. His cause of death was accidental overdose in 2020. But could Riley have pushed Power Trip to the top of modern metal alongside giants like Lamb of God and the Great Gojira? Let me know what you think. So in closing, who deserves more recognition? These musicians that I mentioned shaped extreme metal, gothic metal, industrial, modern thrash. Yet their names often don't get the same respect as the bigger legends. Their contributions will never be forgotten. Which of these underground legends do you think deserves the most recognition? Let's talk in the comments below, and I will see you for the final part of Dead and Gone, but Not Forgotten. Next up, we're going to do What Ifs, the greatest what could have been stories in rock and metal. Because we've lost so many greats, but what if they had lived? In part 5, let's explore the biggest what if scenarios in metal history. What if Hendrix played metal? What if Randy Rhoads never got on that plane? What if Cliff Burton had lived? Let me know which what if scenario you think would have changed music